So it's that time again to go over my high yield stock tracker sheet, enter in those distributions, find out what we actually got paid out this week, and find out what my new real price per share will be. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So we're going to go over my high yield stock tracker sheet. We're going to enter in those distributions that I did receive for YieldMax and a few of the other high yield ETFs that I do own. And here we are on my spreadsheet. Now this is the same spreadsheet that is available to my Discord members. And it helps you to track each high yield ETF that you do own. And it will help you to calculate that real price per share. Now what that is used for is to let you know whether or not you're actually up or down in your position, because it also takes into account those distributions you are earning. All you have to do is enter in your purchases and any distributions that you have earned, and it will track, calculate, and display exactly what your real price per share is. And you can do that for each of those high yield ETFs that you do own. And as you can see, I am currently green in all of my positions except for Coney, SMCY, and Hui. Those are the only three that I'm currently down in, and I am working to get those turned around, and it will take some time, and it wouldn't hurt if Bitcoin would move up so that would help get Coney market share price up so that I can hopefully get this one turned green. But if you would like to get a copy of this spreadsheet so that you can track your own high yield ETFs, come on over, join the Discord. The link is in the pinned comments and in the description below. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Now, before we enter in those distributions, you can see I'm currently at a gain of $25,153. That is the amount that I would actually make if I were to sell out of all of these high yield ETFs that I am showing here on this spreadsheet. And I own a total of 15 ETFs. So if I were to sell out of all of these, whether they're up or down, I would still make $25,153. But that is before I'm entering in that distribution. So let's just see what that's going to change it to, as we did receive some distributions for these high yield ETFs. So I'm going to start right off on Coney. And to get to that individual sheet where you enter in your purchases and distributions, just hover right over the ticker that you want to go to. And in my case, I'm going to start right off with Coney. Gives a little pop-up and you click it and there you go. Takes you straight to that individual sheet where you can enter in your distributions and any purchases over here on this side. Now I have already went ahead and entered in the distribution per share amount just to help speed the video along. And as you can see on Coney, we earned 28 cents and I have a total of 370 shares. Now I have not made any purchases this week on Coney because I'm still waiting on that price to drop just a bit more so that it can help push that RSI 2 down below 10. And once it does, then I'll be able to purchase more shares of Coney. And that's going to help to lower that real price per share. And then it would be nice if Coney can level off and start moving up. But until then, I will just be patient, capture my distributions, and continue to lower my real price per share. So as you can see with that 28 cents distribution, that's going to help lower my real price per share from 28.36 down to 28.08. Now, if I were to sell all my shares at the current price of Coney being 21.01, I would take a loss, and that loss would be $2,614 right here. Now, I have a total of about $13,920 invested, but I would only take a loss of $2,614 if I were to sell all my shares at that current price. Because I am earning those distributions, and that is helping to offset that loss. And since I am capturing those distributions, it's lowering that real price per share, which means that gap between the current price and that real price per share hopefully gets tighter. As the price of Coney would happen to move up and my real price per share continues to move down, then that gap between the two gets smaller. And as that gap gets smaller, so does this loss of my unrealized gains over here. But until that flips over to the point where my real price per share is under the current price per share, it will continue to show as a loss. But I will continue going along with my plan here to eventually get this one down, and the goal is to get it paid off, of course. But the first task is to get that real price per share under the current price per share for a Coney and any of the other ones that I may be down on. And moving on, we have Platy. And Platy is one of the ones that I do have paid off. And that means that I have earned more in distributions than I actually had invested. And that means I have received back all of my money that I invested, and everything beyond that is free and clear. So this 29 cents that we did receive on this distribution, that's going to help to lower that real price per share of minus $7.75 because it is below zero, right? Because I have it paid off, but it's going to lower that minus $7.75 down to minus $8.05 when I enter in that 37 shares. So for Platy, if I were to sell my shares at the current price of $31.32, I would actually gain $1,456. For Nvidia, we earned 12 cents and I have 71 shares, and that's going to help to lower that real price per share of $9.46 down to $9.34. I continue to lower that real price per share no matter what the current price of that high yield ETF is doing. And currently with Nvidia at $13.08, if I were to sell all my shares at that current price, I would make $265 on Nvidia. For Alti, we earned 38 cents and I have 56 shares. So that's going to help to lower that real price per share from $29.09 down to $28.70. So even though Alti did come down a bit and it came down to $30.44, and since I do reduce my real price per share by capturing those distributions, I am able to lower that real price per share so that it gives me that extra downside protection. Because with my real price per share at $28.70 and that current price being $30.44 means that if I were to sell my shares at that current price, I would make $97. It's not a loss, it's actually still a gain. And that's why I play these the way I play these. For Misty, we earned 22 cents and I have 95 shares. And since Misty is paid off as well, that means that will show my real price per share being negative, right? And it's at a minus $13.63. And earning that 22 cents distribution is only going to help bring down that real price per share even further. So that minus $13.63 is going to drop further down to minus $13.86. And that's moving it even further away from that 0 point. And therefore, if I were to sell all my shares at the current price of $15.70, I'm going to make $2,808 on Misty. But since it is paid off, all those distributions that I'm earning, they are free and clear, not including any taxes, of course. Next, we have SMCY. We earned 6 cents this week, and I have a total of 350 shares. So that's going to lower that real price per share of $5.71 down to $5.64. And therefore, if I were to sell all my shares of SMCY at that $5.23 current price, I would take a loss, but it would only be a loss of $143. For AMDY. Now, AMDY has just been on a rocket ship because AMD has just been moving up and up and up. And of course, our distributions have been reflecting that as well. As this week we earned $1.05 for AMD. And I have a total of 164 shares. And that's going to lower that real price per share of $18.07 down to $17.02. Sweet. Now, of course, if I were to sell all my shares of AMD at the current price of $55.55, I would make $6,319. But also do note up here on this area at the top of the sheet where it says 17 more distributions at the above average means as long as we're going to earn about $1.01 for that distribution, and if I get 17 more distributions of roughly that amount, then this one will be paid off. So I only need roughly about 17 more distributions of AMD. As long as it can stay above that dollar, I can get this one paid off in just 17 more weeks. Not too shabby at all. Now, of course, if that distribution drops, then that will affect how many distributions I would need. It would increase it a little bit, but as long as we are getting an average of about $1.01, then I should be able to get this one paid off in about 17 weeks. Super excited about AMD. And next we have YieldMax. And for YieldMax, we earn 7 cents, and I have 758 shares. And that's going to help to drop that real price per share of $5.78 down to $5.71. And at the current moment, if I were to sell all my shares of YieldMax at that current price of $8.16, I would make $1,858. So just by entering in my distributions or any purchases that I've made over here, and I've made plenty, if I scroll back up, you'll see I've made plenty of purchases, but I've also made a whole lot in distributions, right? Because making those distributions, it's helping to lower my real price per share to eventually, hopefully, getting this one paid off. Now, at the current moment, you can see on YieldMax, as long as we get a roughly about 8 cents on that distribution, I should be able to get this one paid off in about 68 weeks. So that's a little over a year. But of course, if that distribution does increase, that does affect and will change the number of distributions needed to get this one paid off. If it increases, then that distribution payout number here will decrease. But if that distribution decreases, then of course the number of distributions needed would increase. But selling all my shares of YieldMax at that current price and making $1,858, I'm still sitting okay on this one. For Hui. Now Hui I am currently down on, as the current price being $33.09 and my real price per share being $36.79. But since I do continue to lower that real price per share, I am not sitting still at a higher price on my real price per share waiting for Hui to come to me. Instead, I'm helping it out by lowering my real price per share and still needing Hui to come to me, but by lowering that real price per share, I don't have to wait as long, right? I'm helping it out by bringing my real price per share down in hopes that as Hui moves up, that gap gets smaller, and therefore, eventually, I can get this one back to green. And of course, the goal for all of these is to eventually get them paid off so that distribution money coming in is free and clear, not including taxes, but that's just free powder that would be coming into my account to use however I so choose. So it does take some time and it does take a lot of patience, but eventually when I get these paid off, that money coming in for those distributions will be just free cash coming in to my account to use to buy more shares of whatever I want to buy. But we earned 55 cents on Hui this week, a very nice distribution on Hui. And of course, I have 126 shares. So that is going to help lower that real price per share from $36.79 down to $36.24. And therefore, if I had to sell all my shares of Hui at the current price, I am still going to be at a loss, but I'm only going to take a $397 loss. As you saw, that real price per share came down. So therefore, that gap between that current price and my new real price per share just got a little bit smaller. And that is how I am playing these high yield ETFs. Next, we have QDTE. We earned 12 cents and I have 155 shares. And therefore, it's going to lower that real price per share of $19.48 down to $19.36. And if I were to sell all my shares at that current price of $31.51, I would make $1,883. For IWMY, we earned 11 cents and we have 551 shares. And therefore, that's going to lower my real price per share of $13.54 down to $13.42. And that is under the current price of IWMY of $19.71. So therefore, if I had to sell all my shares at the current price, I would make $3,463. For QQQY, we earned 13 cents and I had 551 shares of QQQY. And this one too has a real price per share under that current price. But by getting this distribution, it's going to help lower that real price per share a bit more. So it's going to drop that real price per share of $17.65 down to $17.51. And therefore, if I had to sell my shares at the current price of QQQY, I would make $3,744. For WDTE, we earned 17 cents and I have 540 shares. That's going to help to lower that real price per share of $23.01 down to $22.83. And since that is under the current price of WDTE, if I were to sell all my shares at that current price, I would make $3,945. For JEPQ, this is a monthly pair, and we do not have a distribution to show for this week, as this one pays out at the first of every month. So my $7.97 real price per share still stands, and therefore if I had to sell all my shares of JEPQ at the current price of $61.34, which is a nice move up on JEPQ, then I would make $2,935. And last we have Divo. This too is a monthly pair and it pays toward the end of each month. So I do not have a distribution to show for this week. So therefore my real price per share of $44.19 still stands. And therefore if I had to sell all my shares of Divo at the current price of $45.87, I would make $28. So that wraps up all of the high yield ETFs that I do own. And to get back to that summary page to see where I'm currently setting for my total overall portfolio, then I can just simply hover right over top of this button, back to summary, click the pop-up, and there you go. Now we are back to our summary page, and you can see that now my total gains has increased a bit, and it's went up to $25,898. And that is the unrealized gains if I were to sell out of all of these high yield ETFs at the current prices. I would come out and make $25,898. So that's some of the benefits that this sheet does provide you. It shows you not only the overall amount that you would make or lose, but it also shows you the individuals so that you know which ones that you need to pay attention to, which ones are good and which ones are not providing you with a gain at the moment. So for me, if it's red here, then I am paying attention to those. And if I get that RSI2 below 10, then I'm looking to purchase some shares as long as that market price is under my real price per share. Because if it is above my real price per share, then it's going to raise that real price per share. I do not want to raise my real price per share on these high yield ETFs. I want to only lower that real price per share. So therefore, if the market price is indeed under my real price per share, then that's trigger point number 1. The actual point where I make that buy would be if the RSI2 is under 10. And if it is, then that's trigger point number 2, and I can go in, purchase some shares, and that's going to help to lower that real price per share even more, so that that gap between the market price and that real price per share gets tighter. And then when Coney decides to start moving back up, then it doesn't have to go up as high before I can get this one turned green. And eventually, I believe I will get this turned green, but it will take a bit of time. So if you'd like to get a copy of this spreadsheet, come on over, join the Discord. That link is in the pinned comments and in the description below. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button, as it would be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.